you trying to do for real? For real.
Cosmic psychedelic funk is what I came to do. Yep. Hi. I'm soul by funky. Hey. Soul by funky. Hi. I'm soul by cosmic soul. Hey.
And just like that, we're back for another episode. It's the Authors Authority Lounge, the official TV show for authors. I am Takara Nicole. To my left here,
I'm Alan T. Black, and we are excited to have an amazing man of God here with us this morning or this afternoon or evening.
Woo-woo.
And so we're going to get this thing rolling because he's got a story to tell.
Boom. Go ahead and introduce him.
So I've had the honor of meeting our guest. Is it Reverend Nichols, or what is it officially? Tell me.
I'm a minister.
Okay.
Ordained minister.
So I would say Minister
Minister, that's what you would
Rodney
say. Yep.
Nichols. We actually met Takara, I'm going to say about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, and he was working at a trophy shop. So I came in, and actually at that time, I had just released my second book, I do believe. And so we got to talking and everything, and he was telling me about the book that he was going to write. And so we kind of lost contact, but it's just amazing how God
Yes, sir.
works things out, because I was going through some contacts and you popped into my mind. And I said, I wonder what Rodney Nichols is doing, because actually I was trying to reach you at the trophy shop, Crown Trophy here in Omaha, and they said you weren't there anymore. And so I was like, okay, no, that's not gonna work for me, because you had posted something on Facebook about you being a new author. And so I took a chance and I called you on Messenger, and you said,
And I never answer messages because I never checked it, because there was one time I did answer something and I got some kind of, I don't know, virus or something, and they said that was not always, but I think that now they've improved it.
Yeah.
And then the only reason it popped up with your name, and I said, I've been trying, I said, well, I wanted to get in contact with you.
Wow.
And I'd been thinking about that same thing, and I was like, why do I get in contact with them? And I want to say, I think I replied on one of your posts that you had posted.
You did,
something.
yes,
And I said,
yes.
hey, I'm that, but I never heard nothing, and then you did. The same way with another guest you had, the same way. I met her in Crown Trophy.
Wow.
And we had talked about doing some things, and I went to a banquet or something, and we sat with her and her husband, Pastor Thompson, and we had talked about it. But it's one of those things where if you don't get the number, or you don't ever write it on a sheet of paper, because
No, you
always gonna lose.
And-
that gets lost all the time.
so I believe it was God's divine design to meet up with you and learn about this journey, because it's one thing to write the book, but it's a quite different thing after you write it, the processes that go. Nobody talks to you about, well, what if somebody calls you and says, hey, why don't you come on the author's talk show? And you, I'm like, I've never been on anybody's talk show. Or those kind of things. And those things of, how do you, do those things? So
Yeah.
I'm just, like I said, I prayed, I'm going to trust God, and we're going to have a good time here.
Yes, everyone who comes here has a good time, so don't worry about that. And for those of you who are watching this show, it's such a privilege to be able to interview amazing authors and to learn the story of what, prompted them to write a book, because there's a lot of people who write a book, but only 2 to 3% of people actually publish it.
True.
So it's not as popular as everyone thinks it is. People start, but they don't finish. So we have a couple of books here on the table, Rodney. I don't even know which one to start with, but I think I'm going to go for this one. Tell us a little bit about this book, and how did you arrive to that story?
The adventures of, this is Zara and Papa Rodney's Hot Air Balloon Adventure.
Oh, that's so they can see it.
Hot Air Balloon. And there's a series of 12 books. I released the first 2, and the next 2 are scheduled to come out within the next 3 months. Working with the illustrator and those to get those things done. As a kid, I loved being with my grandparents.
Yes.
I could never spend enough time around them. I don't know. They always made me feel really special.
Right.
And particularly my grandfathers. My mom had a grandfather, Conley Roan, in Tyler, Texas, and my dad had a great grandfather. His dad had already passed when I was born, but his great grandfather, Jesse Nichols, was still living. And I remember them taking me around, hanging out with them, and doing
Yeah.
different things. And then during COVID, I became a grandfather. And this little girl has changed my life in ways that I never thought. You know, in the book, there's a thing there that I tell her that she awakened creative things in me that I thought had went on, and you kind of think you're on the back nine, and you just sort of say that. And she gave me a whole new perspective on how to look at things, because everything was new to her.
Yeah.
That's true.
She
That's
asked,
true.
something she'd ask me, why you do certain things or whatever else, or she wants to play. The other day, I came home and I was tired. I was doing some different things, and she said, "Papa, you look tired. You should go take a nap." So I said,
She said that?
"Yeah." So I go and I go get into bed, and she tells my wife, "Papa's sleeping." So because I could hear her. And then she decides to, a little later, because we like to, we play and come up with these things. And she comes in the room and she goes, "Okay, Papa, you done slept enough. We got to play."
Oh, snap. Really?
So I'm just saying, so it's been little things.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
One of the books is a trip that we went to the zoo.
Yeah.
And this book is, we didn't really go on a hot air balloon ride, but I'm just saying I wrote this in the sense that I wanted grandparents and kids, or parents and kids, to write it. Because sometimes I think we look, inside the forest, so we only see but if you were up
Yeah.
in a balloon and you're looking at the landscape and the different things that are going on, mountains,
Right.
people out at parks playing, people going on hikes and different things, you see things from a much different perspective.
For
true.
sure.
And my granddaughter, God has used my granddaughter to help me see things from a new perspective, and also revive some things in me.
Yeah.
And so I wrote this, and I decided I wasn't going to just write one, because a lot of times people write one, and if they get to that one, then I've heard other people go back and they go, "Well, do you have some more?" And
Yes.
they don't want to.
Yeah.
They can't find the time, because now I think they put this pressure on themselves.
sure.
It's like it's not even real pressure. It's,
Right.
you write because you enjoy it and you
Yes.
like what you want to do. But so I did, and when I pitched it as a 12-book series, they sort of said, "Yes, we want to do that." And so I got the first two done. The next one is about we have this chair in our living room, and we sometimes pretend that it's a rocket ship.
Oh, that's so
That was really cool. I
And
dig
so
I love it.
you will see in the children's book, the actual people, but I actually take pictures. If you see the children's book, when kids come back from the zoo, they're exhausted, And I'm just saying there's certain things that there's some, the illustration, and there's actual real pictures of those events. So I'm really excited. It's just a way that actually, I think it's in September, I'm actually hosting a grandparents brunch
Oh, well, amazing.
to honor grandparents and their grandkids, and if they, because I think that's a really special bond.
It is.
Between, and if you've had that, Big Mama or Mama Dear or
Yes.
Nana, whoever you had there, or Grandpa, Papa, whoever you call it, those relationships are very special.
They
And
are.
I think that sometimes grandparents, in the culture, but I've been blessed that my daughter and Zara's dad, he's in the military, but we all work together, and we've got a good thing, and I think that's important. I didn't grow up with my dad, but my dad's mom and his grandmother made sure that even though we didn't see him, but we were always part of Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
the dinner, and those things, and I think that's important
It is.
for grandparents and extended families, because you will never, once they go, that history that they
It's gone.
share with you, it's something that, that, and so doing it through that.
That's amazing. We all love a good story with a little kid, and the fact that her imagination is so great and you guys can sit and have those conversations too. She sounds really smart. The fact that she knows when you're tired, she's like, okay, that's enough, wake up. So not only are you a children's book author, in my hand, I hold one of two books that Rodney has published. So it's Poems, Prayers, and Affirmations, Tapestry Threads of the Heart, Mind, and Soul. So tell us a little bit about this book and how did you arrive at the title?
Well, the way I came at the title about the tapestry, we went to a museum in Kansas City, and my lack of culture saw these big giant rugs hanging on the, from the ceiling down to the ground. And I'm like, what house has space for a rug like that? And there was a person there, I guess the moderator or curator that was there, and it was a tapestry display. And what fascinated me about this tapestry was the fact that, not the fact that it was, it was beautiful. It was, all this, what it showed, but the back of it had all these threads that, you could not make out what was on the front. It didn't look as pretty. It didn't have all those same things. And at that moment, I believe the Holy Spirit said to me, your life is a lot like that.
Yeah.
People see the front, the finished product,
For
and
sure.
everything, but no one knows about, they were telling me about, these people spend years on years
That's true.
doing these things, and there's problems. They have to start all over, the threads and whatever else. But all these threads make up who we are.
Yes,
That is really
indeed.
powerful.
And I think that's one of the things in the book. You ever mess around on some of those social media, Facebook, and they have these things that say whoever it is, and you go and you type your name, and they come up, and mine's always came up with, you've endured a lot of pain, but you continue to smile and you continue. And I kept thinking, where was all this pain? And that's what poetry kind of did for me. It became more or less just an outlet or a release when I started doing it. And I don't know, just to see. I mean, you always want to meet. So I just sent in a couple of pieces that I wrote to some writing thing, and I won. And they asked me, have you ever considered doing more? And I thought, well, no, not really. And it was just something that I was writing for myself, you know, and something to do to release things.
Yes.
And there's a second Saturday of the month. They have an open mic, the Nebraska Writers Association.
Writers Collective?
Writers Collective. They have the open mic. And it used to be down at Spokes, down on Leavenworth.
Dry Spokes. Now it's at
It's down.
the local art plug.
Yep. And
Yes.
And they do that, and so I tried it, and it was some young poets there that are just amazing, incredible, and I said, that's pretty good. I enjoyed what you spoke about, your perspective, and those things, and I started reading poets that I liked, and Nikki Giovanni, when you read. You read her poetry and it's very powerful, but she goes on different YouTube things and you hear what inspired them to write certain things or whatever else. And that just gave me a whole new respect for the art. And that's basically, in the book, there is a homage that I call Thank You Poetry, that basically what it did and the form that it gave me to share. So that's kind of how that went.
So as you were doing this particular book, you spoke about the things that you have been through. You alluded to that. How difficult was it to write this and commit yourself to say, I need to do this. I need to get this out. How hard was that?
The actual writing at the time was very just something therapeutic. I was doing. And as I started to share, I don't believe that anything that God takes us through or allows us to happen, it says that all things work for the good.
Yes.
And sometimes going through certain things don't always feel that good. They don't
Exactly.
always look
That's
that
true.
good, and you don't understand the reason. But cliche, there's a purpose for the pain.
For sure.
If you're trusting God to
Right.
handle it.
Right.
Sometimes we can go through certain things and be stubborn, and He's throwing us a rap, or He's doing something that allow us to go elevate ourselves above that pain. But sometimes we, like the people of Israel, we're very comfortable
For sure.
to continue going in the same circle. And since time doesn't affect Him, it affects us. So we can spend a lifetime managing and servicing something that, it's time to move on. There's a poem in here about I'm done with yesterday, and you too. Sometimes there's people and relationships that we have to say,
Okay.
I love that one.
that's
That's a
it.
serious
I
title.
love it.
Serious title,
And,
Rodney.
and then there's a poem, it's about different things. There's a poem in there about one of my uncles, Uncle Ray, and it's called Uncle Ray Let Me Drive. And I was a 14-year-old boy, just got a learner's permit, and we were traveling to Texas, and I said, "Hey, can I drive?" And my mom and everybody else is like, "He's not ready for doing that." And for some reason, my uncle decided to give me the opportunity. He goes, "How will he know unless he tried?" But
Wow.
This
and
There it is, right?
and I just remember that moment in time, and I think sometimes when we have somebody that really shows a confidence in us,
Yeah.
that believes in us to do something, and and he, like he told me, now listen to what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
you put your hands where I tell you to go. Don't go too fast.
10 and 2.
Yeah, and
I don't know who drives 10 and 2.
yeah.
Shout out for those of you who do. I can't.
Well, I
get
mean,
it.
you don't, but once you get a certain confidence, and I just think that those are. This book also, there was a teacher, a biology teacher in my 10th grade year, and I had thought about just getting out of school because she wanted you to be able to spell schizomicetes and phylum and all these different things. And
We're not going to ask you to spell them.
no,
Right.
please don't. But what I'm saying is that
Schizomicetes. What?
she saw something in me and told me that I've never felt anybody who really tried and give their best effort.
Wow.
If you can come in and give your best effort, so the grades came up and everything else, and that's important. And about Miss Wallington, and it just had an opportunity to explore different things. And you write so much, I did at the time, till I went back to that tapestry thing where this lady was a curator, and they basically pick the best pieces
Yes.
and they tell a story with that.
Yes.
And the difference from what I saw is that not only did I include poems that I wrote, I also included prayers that I've had to pray at certain times that I thought, whatever else. And sometimes I would post them on Facebook and see response in there. And I realized that we are a culture, whether we want to admit it or not, we're in need of prayer.
For sure.
It's the only way to communicate with God is through prayer, whether you call it that or not. And
Yeah.
prayer has to have a direction and a result,
Right.
and there were certain things that in rereading the work that I put in there, and there's just another section in there called affirmations. If you've, I used to think affirmations like, yeah, right. And the biggest thing that I had there's a cartoon. I know you remember the Bugs Bunny and stuff, and there was a thing where he says, "I am Elmer J. Fudd. I am a millionaire. I own a mansion and a yacht." And this is what Elmer J. Fudd did this. But then Bugs Bunny did it, and he started saying that, and he changed his affirmation to something else, so he believed he was a rabbit or something like that. And from that standpoint, it is very important that we understand what do we say when we talk to ourselves?
That's good.
What are we repeating when we do that? These different things. If you're one of these people that talk to yourself,
Yeah.
what are you talking to yourself about? Is it
Yeah, it's
positive?
great.
Yeah.
Because
Is it
everybody does,
motivating?
whether we want to admit it or
Admit
not.
it or not.
Let's just be
you know,
real about it.
It is.
And then sometimes it's not even like sometimes some people talk loud.
Yeah.
But in your head, there's a conversation that's going on.
Always.
And affirmations, the Bible says, speak on these things.
Yes.
You know, and these thoughts and different things become actions, and you continue the same actions, they become behaviors, and then they
For
become
sure.
habits.
Right.
But it starts with what you're saying and what you're talking to yourself, and that's why the book is titled Poems, Prayers, and Affirmations. There's a list of affirmations. The first book covers self-discovery, because I believe that wholeheartedly, if you're not willing to look at yourself, the good, the bad, and
And the
ugly.
of yourself,
Yeah.
it's very hard to move forward.
It is. And you know, you've said a whole lot, Rodney. And I love, you know, I never thought of it, but I love when you talk about cartoons, and I remember, you know, Elmer Fudd would say who he was, and not even realizing that that's an affirmation, you know. So we watch these things and don't even realize that we're introduced to such things at an early age. And so, speaking of being introduced to things at an early age, when did you start your writing journey? When did poetry become a part of your lifestyle?
Much older. In the last few years, I have a great friend, and maybe you might consider her as a guest. Her name is Audra Owens, and she's actually published.
I know Audra. Yeah.
She's published, I want to say 3 or 4 poetry books.
Oh, okay.
She has a very unique perspective that I really enjoy of her poetry. And one day we went to a book signing or something, and I had my phone, and I decided to interview her, like, you know, kind of like this. And I was asking her about, you know, how did you start? How do you find inspiration for poetry? And
Yeah.
she's basically saying anybody can write poetry because everybody has a story to tell. It's just that you have to be willing to sit down, put it on paper,
That's it.
And tell the story.
communicate it. And she said that, and I kept thinking, no, I don't write poetry. And then,
Yeah.
I ended up, I know it was something that I said, well, Lord, there was a class at Metro, not like a regular class, it's like the community,
I know what you mean.
you know, paper they have there, and it taught about poetry. There was another one that talked about how to write a book and different aspects of the book. I want to give out a shout out to Miss Denisha Whitaker,
Yes.
who was heading these classes. And I just recently went back because there's these words that you never really think about until, like branding
Yeah.
and these different things. There's so much more, and I was able to last night attend a forum. Last night, I forgot exactly what it was called, but
It's called the Author's Happy Hour with the Triple AG. That's just the plug since the camera's right there looking.
and I really believe if you are an author or an aspiring author and you want to write a book, this would be an awesome forum for you to be involved in. And that was one of the things that I realized in your writing your book. I believe that when God calls you to something that he's calling you to, it will be a lonely journey.
That's really true.
It will be a lonely journey because if you look at Abraham, his moment was when he realized that he told the people that started out with him on this thing, he said, stay here. He said, stay here. And he had to go to this last part of this journey
That's so
by
good.
himself.
That's so good.
If we look at Moses and his journey, he actually went with God and
Man.
himself alone. And I think a lot of times we think that we need the crowd, we
Yes.
need the affirmation or the appreciation
Yes.
or these things. And when it's of God and it's only of God, the only person that needs to be on your side and thinking what you're doing is God.
That's it.
And you will find a lot of times the people who you think love you, it could be
Yes.
your family, it could
Yeah.
be your pastor, your people in your church, and you'll
Yeah.
be wondering, why didn't they get the memo as well? And it's not that they didn't get the memo. It's just that you're at a point in your time in your life that you have to accept what God is calling you to do.
Yes.
Trust Him enough to continue to step out on faith.
Yes.
Part of the cover you'll see in Poems of Prayers and Affirmation, I put it together myself, was there's so much more that God has for you.
Yes. Yes.
And taking that next step should never be comfortable.
Woo!
That's powerful.
It
That's
should never
it.
be comfortable. And if you are 100% sure on something or anything, it's probably not God.
Wow.
He does not want you to wait, because that's in your own strength. If it's
Yeah.
of God, you're not going to see everything. And sometimes you have to become comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yes.
If you want to move in the direction with God. And
Yes.
and if you look at the cover, if you look back at your life, no matter what you went through, there was still solid ground.
For sure. For
You-
sure.
If He didn't kill you, if He didn't call you for an in-person visit, that means He still got something for you to do here. And continue to trust Him. And that's
Yes.
not always a very easy thing to do.
Man, you've said so much. We want to make sure that we capture, if people want to pick up a copy of your book, where do they go?
You can go 2 places now. You can go to, 3 places. You can pick it up on Ingram Sparks or Amazon. And if you want to go to my website, it's called ranbooksandmore.com. ranbooksandmore.com. It's still under construction, and we're still kind of working out some things. I'm hoping last night at this forum that they'll give me some tips or advice of how to improve this website so
We
that
gotcha.
it can go. And then you can also email me at ranbooksandmore@gmail.com.
Okay.
There it is. Thank you so much. This time goes by so fast.
Wow.
So it's really true, when you're having fun, time flies. So thank you so much to our guests. Thank you so much, audience. Make sure you catch us for the next episode. Check you out.
What you trying to do for real? For real.
Cosmic psychedelic funk is what I came to do. Yep.